True Techno Gamer here. It's been a while, long time, I know. Crazy year, a lot going on, a lot of things happening for me. Trying to focus on family, my career, went through several different job changes, but worked out well in the end, but don't have a whole lot of time for this. This is just my hobby thing. We get it, you guys understand, but still a lot that I want to talk about. Gaming related things, ton of stuff. We'll see if I get to it. But for this video, I actually want to introduce the home theater aspect to my channel. So this channel, it wasn't initially conceived to be just purely a gaming channel. True Techno Gamer is meant to kind of be a little bit more nebulous, right? True, because I speak the truth, is kind of one of my things. Techno is just meant to be like technology, right, as a whole, which I knew would include a lot of home theater, and I'm just a technophile, so there's a lot of different technologies that I like, and automobile and smart home stuff and whatever. So might have different topics to discuss there, and of course gamer, because I'm a huge gamer, and that's probably my number one thing. But number two, or close to number two on that list, is home theater. So I have a couple of videos that I wanted to upload here pertaining to my home theater journey, and underscoring this, my home theater discussion is this idea of my journey to what I call the end game. Okay, and I have some older videos that I had recorded but never really uploaded, that'll be part of this, and then this is going to be over months, probably years even, to kind of show this. But I wanted to kind of document this for folks that are interested in home theater, even if it's a little bit or deeper, like I got. There's a lot to understand, a lot to break down, and I just kind of want to give you guys my kind of brain dump, my process, my journey with that, and then also my journey going forward. So home theater, right, is one of those things that it's a hobby, but it's I would say it's one of the worst hobbies out there. I mean, it's enjoyable, I love it, but it's addicting, and you're essentially in this eternal pursuit of perfection, right? The perfect gear to get the perfect experience, so that you feel like you're there, you're in the movie or in the game or whatever. And the reality is there is no such thing as perfection, right? You're never really going to achieve it. Even $100,000 speakers aren't perfect, because physics dictates that, right? There's no material on earth where you can build a speaker and can actually simulate the real world, the way your ears hear sound in the real world, 100% perfectly, right, and accurately. It's just not possible. But you continue to invest, and you continue to get deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and spend more and more and more money chasing that dream, chasing that ideal. So that's why I say it's kind of a bad hobby. If you're like me, married with kids, and money is not really your own anymore, it can be problematic at times, for sure. But it's a journey. Here I am, 2021. And I first started getting into what can be called a home theater in 2000, I'm pretty sure. My mom, I was 18 at the time. My mom had just moved into her first home. So we had like a townhome, and it had a basement, and basically she kind of let me run free in the basement in terms of, making it my own, and, putting in whatever I wanted to put in there. So, the first step was, I got a big screen TV. At the time, it was one of those huge rear projection CRTs that sit on the floor. It was like 53 inches, which was huge at the time. But by today's standards, right, it's not a huge screen, but it was big at the time. And then getting a DVD player was kind of the next thing. And DVD was huge because, not only because, it increased, visual fidelity, but the biggest thing was the sound. It was the first time we actually had true discrete, like, surround sound, right? Doing Dolby Digital 5.1 and DTS 5.1 were mainstream things that every DVD had, and everyone had access to having full discrete 5.1 surround sound, which pretty much matched what you would hear in a movie theater at the time. So that was a huge deal, and I knew nothing about this stuff, but that's how it started. I literally, she moved to the house. I got the basement, got the big screen TV. I got a Denon, the Mitsubishi. I got a Mitsubishi DVD player at the time. It was progressive scan, which was a huge deal for visual quality at the time. And I went to Circuit City, and I had about $1,000, I think, in total at the time, to just say like, give me the best system I can get for $1,000. And that was a whole system, a receiver with the 5 speakers for the 5.1 subwoofer. So I wound up getting essentially like a home theater in a box from Polk Audio. And it had these 5 satellite speakers that were probably about, yay high. And it had a subwoofer. And it came with the Onkyo, the way Circuit City packaged it, it came with an Onkyo receiver that was like $250, right? And, coming from just a TV, I plugged this stuff in and it was like, whoa, with DVD, with surround sound, it was amazing, right? So that was like my intro. And then you'll see where I'm at now, 20 years later. I mean, so when I say it's a journey, it's a journey. I'm gonna do a video to kind of go over my current system because I want to capture what it was at the start of this. And then in the near future, I'm going to be making some pretty big changes. And then, again, over the years, we'll see as some upgrades happen along the way and, for me to get to that end game, right? So that's how it started. And, this thing that I describe as end game means, I'll tell you guys what it means. Like I said, you're constantly pursuing something that's not attainable, right? And this perfect speaker, perfect amplifier, perfect, this system, with the whole idea being to immerse you, to trick your brain into believing that you are actually there, whether it's a concert, if you have, these super high fidelity speakers and all the appropriate gear, or whether it's like in a movie theater, essentially home theater, right? But what happens is, the components that you get for home theater are very much tied. They're kind of like allocated like cars in price brackets for the most part, right? And what happens is, like I said, I started with $1,000 to get these little tiny satellite speakers, and you can start there, and then you realize along the way that there's limitations, right? And that there is a better sound, a better experience out there, but you got to spend more money for it. And what happens is, as you spend more money, the quality goes up, but it doesn't go up linearly, right? So there is absolutely diminishing returns. So when you're in a lower price bracket, it takes less money to get a much higher increase in quality than when you get to like the higher price brackets, right? So in other words, if you got a $500 receiver, a $1,000 receiver is going to sound pretty noticeably better, than that $500 receiver. And it's double the price, but it's only $500 more, but it's double the price, right? And then $2,000 receiver is going to sound a bit better than that $1,000 receiver, but probably not as big of a jump as you heard from the $500 to the $1,000. That's kind of what I'm getting at, right? And then it keeps going. So double that, $4,000 or $5,000 range. Yeah, it's going to be better, but again, not nearly as much as probably what you heard going from the $1,000 to the $2,000, etc. And this goes up. Same thing with speakers or whatever. So as you go up, it takes a lot more money to get the same difference, the same increase in quality, right? It's a bad combination of things, right? And then it's one of those things that sound, especially, is completely subjective, right? So everyone's ears are different. And it's not like an absolute science, right? You can measure speakers and measure an amplifier, measure a preamplifier. There's ways to do that. But just because something measures better and has lower distortion doesn't mean that 10 people in a room, all of their ears are going to perceive that the same way. So it's completely subjective. I personally have heard speakers ranging from $100 all the way up to $150,000, right, in different forms. Not personally in my house, but in different places. And in many cases, I've heard $50,000 and $100,000 speakers that to me didn't really sound much better, if better at all, than a $10,000 pair of speakers, or in some cases even a $5,000 pair of speakers, And everyone that deals with audio, especially, will probably have a similar experience. It's not like it just means because it's more expensive, it's going to sound better, right? It's what I'm getting at. So it's a very dicey type of, hobby and just thing to be in. So there's a lot to learn, a lot to do. At the end of the day, you have to trust your own ears and trust your own brain, so to speak. You got to try certain things, and it's hard to try. You can't rent a $10,000 pair of speakers, right, and bring it in your home and just try it. It's not something that you can just sample like that. So we just got to be mindful of that. But the EndGame is this place where you get to a certain point of quality and performance, where no matter how much more money you can spend, you're really not going to get a perceivable difference in quality. That's the idea. So there's a point where that diminishing returns kind of plateaus, is what I'm saying, right? You spend more money, the amount of money you spend goes up like this, and then the quality kind of increases much lower, right? And there's a point where you just kind of hit that plateau where you can invest more, but you're not really going to get more performance out of it. You might be paying for aesthetics, you might be paying for some exotic materials or something like that, but just in terms of the actual performance and quality, you're pretty much maxed out, right? I kind of think of this EndGame as being the 95th percentile or higher, meaning that piece of gear is better than 95% of all of the gear out there at any price point. There's always going to be something else out there. Like I said, there's literally $1 million speakers that some people make some places, and they may have something going on that can give you an extra 2 or 3%, 5% in some cases, right, over even the world-class speakers out there. But so it's never 100%, I guess. But there is a point where you're just yeah, I just spent $10,000 for these speakers. I could spend $50,000, 5 times that amount, and not really get much better quality. Maybe a $200,000 speakers will sound noticeably better to my ear, but I mean, is that worth it? That's 20 times the price, right? So, or 25 times the price. So that's the kind of way to think about it. So EndGame is getting that level of quality that, for your home, for your purposes, which again could be different for everyone, will be able to give you everything you possibly can ask for, everything you possibly can want, everything that's reasonable to expect in a component, right? A consumer electronic component that you can buy, and that you can be comforted in knowing that there really isn't it's always the next tier, the next step, the next evolution when you think about when you're in home theater or audio. It's you got what you got and it's good, but there's a next level that you're not at yet. So once you get to EndGame, there really isn't a next level, is what I'm getting at, right? You're pretty much there, right? You may want other brands, like I said, or aesthetics or stuff like that, but in terms of performance, you're there. That's the goal, right? Now, notice what I said. It's a never-ending pursuit, and it's addicting, right? Because with home theater, you never know what you are missing until you get it, or until you hear it or see it or whatever it is. So you might have a 1080p plasma TV, and that looks amazing until you see the 8K OLED, and you're like, what the, that's possible? I've never seen that. That'd be awesome to get. It's way out of range for you at that time. And in some cases, you gotta wait years before you can afford it, before it comes down, before it becomes more practical. That's kind of the name of the game. You might have a $1,000 pair of speakers, which is not cheap at all, and you're like, wow, this sounds amazing. Way better than TV, way better than a soundbar, way better than that home theater in the box that I had, and you're good. And then you go to a store or go to your friend's house, and they have a $5,000 pair of speakers, hooked up to much higher end equipment, and you're like, wow, this sounds holographic. I feel like I'm actually at the concert. I didn't even know this was possible. That's the loop. That's what happens all the time. You hear or experience something and you didn't know, right? Because you didn't know what you were missing, right? You didn't even know that was possible. And then once you hear it, it's in your brain. So now when you hear your existing setup, you're like, it's good, but I know what that can be. And that's what you're aspiring to, right? That's just the name of the game. You spend a lifetime stuck in this loop. And what I'm hoping is that this EndGame, once I get to the point where I have all of these components at this EndGame level, meaning that it is the absolute world-class, top of the line performance, that again, there's no other tier to go to, you know, and there's nothing else to really aspire to, right? I say that, I hope that that's true, but many people have said it and failed. I mean, it's just an endless loop. It's addicting. I can't guarantee, no guarantees here, but that's the plan, that's the goal. I think I have the discipline and the lack of funds, frankly, to kind of stop at a certain point. So that's what I'll be kind of documenting here and talking about. So the next step, I'll show you guys my home theater as it is now today, and you know, kind of what I plan to do, and you know, it's going to be in parts and pieces, just to kind of add and flesh it out a bit. But yeah, the home theater, you know, the stuff, I love this stuff. I'm kind of or like CES is my favorite show, you know, back in the normal times. I go to GDC, E3, and you know, all the gaming shows and SIGGRAPH for graphics and all this stuff. But CES is always like, I'm a kid in the candy store, because it's gaming, it's automotive, it's home theater, it's speakers, it's audiophile stuff, it's TVs, it's, you know, it's everything. It's just like, if you love technology, you know, it's like, you know, you just technology overload, right? So I do love that, and I still follow home theater and love it. And again, I'm close. I have a really nice setup. Don't get me wrong. You know, I've had a lot of my components for years, in some cases over 10 years, and I'm rocking them, and they're fine. But I do know that there's that last level, and hopefully that next step I make will be there. I'll be at this end game. So come with me, join me for my home theater journey, and I hope you enjoy it. Hope you learn not to even think about getting into it. Take it from me. Don't follow my mistakes. But you know, maybe you learn something. Maybe you find something cool out of it as well. So more to come. But thank you for coming with me on this journey. Thank you for still supporting the channel. I'll be in touch soon.